Morning. Okay, right. So any doubts? So this is a mentorship class, right? So any doubts in so which subject is going on for you? Sorry? History and polity. Okay. So which batch are you? A4? A4 batch, right? Okay, right. So which topic of polity is going on right now? Sorry? DPSPs. So your polity class is with respect to mains or prelims? The mains oriented class or prelims oriented class? So you don't know. So you don't know what you are listening. See, there are two exams, right? Prelims and mains. For prelims, the polity needs to be studied from different perspective. From mains, it's a different perspective, right? So today we'll discuss one of the important topic, especially in the current contest with respect to mains polity. So I hope all of you are writing for 25, right? 25 attempt, right? So that means you should be in mains preparation. So that should be your region, right? Okay. So the topic is elections, right? So there is one topic in our syllabus, so which is every year you will get one question on that. So what is the topic? The topic is related to elections exclusively. So there is. Have you read the syllabus? Polity syllabus law. There is one topic which is directly connected with election. Every year you will get one mains question. So nowadays they are picking questions for prelims also from that particular area. What is that? Anyone? Election Commission is a constitutional body. It comes under a topic called constitutional bodies. We have UPSC, State Public Service Commission, Election Commission, Finance Commission. They all come under a head called constitutional. But separately there is a topic. The topic is Representation of People's Act. Representation of People's Act. 1950, 1951. There are two acts. Representation of People's Act, 1950 and 1951. Okay. So what is this representation of people's act? Why this particular act is very, very important? See, okay. See, generally we know what is elections, right? So, but as an administrator, as an aspiring administrator, what is the aspect of election which you need to be interested upon? So you are all aspiring to be bureaucrats, right? So when now the present context, the elections is going on, right? There will be election campaign. For example, take the election of Andhra Pradesh. Now it has become it is interesting more than a movie, right? So this is how the elections fare. So generally we watch the political opinions, the manifestos, the schemes which the government is. But what is an important aspect as a bureaucrat you need to observe with respect to election? Sorry? Election code is one and all the same. So whether it is the election that happened in 1950 or 2014, there will be minor amendments. Okay, free and fair elections. Anything else? As an administrator, what you look into when with respect to election? The administrative aspects of election. Administrative aspect. See, election has so much of administrative aspect behind the election. The elections, as we said, it should be free and fair. The free and fair elections can only happen at the background when the bureaucrats has done all the administrative work, right? See, free and fair elections, if the elections has to be free and fair, there should be so much of background administrative work which needs to be done. So who has to do that? It is you, the bureaucrats has to do this background work. And this particular act called Representation of People's Act, it provides a framework for that administrative act. See how to do this administrative works and what works you need to do. So all these aspects are mentioned in Representation of People's Act. Now, if there is an election, so generally what will be the activities? So what you have to do, for example, imagine yourself a district magistrate, so an IAS officer heading a district. So if there is an election, so from where you have to start the work, administrative work. What will be the administrative works in the election? Sorry. Okay, let us go by sequence. First, you check the criminal records. So what is the first step you take whenever there is an election? Sorry. Excellent. Anything else? What is the first step whenever there is an election? Can someone please close the door? First step, delimitation commission. Have you heard this? Delimitation commission. What do the delimitation commission do? See, entire country has to be divided into constituencies. So we have to divide entire country into constituencies. Now all of you will be having a vote, right? So you vote for in your constituency. You elect your constituency MP, your constituency MLA, right? So entire country needs to be divided into different constituencies. Each constituency will have a member of parliament, right? Similarly, state assembly is divided into different constituency. Each constituency will have an MLA, MP. So these are decided based on constituency, right? So first and foremost, the country has to be divided into different constituencies. Who does this job? Delimitation Commission, right? So when the Delimitation Commission will be constituted? For every 10 years, once in a 10-year, decadal. So whenever, see when the census happens, on the first year of every decade, so 2011, 2021, 2001. So this is where the first year of every decade, the census happens. Census means it measures the population. So based on the population measurement, so the Delimitation Commission will be constituted, and Delimitation Commission divides entire country into different constituencies. But you can ask me why the census of 2021 was not yet happened. Because of pandemic, it got postponed, right? Now, but the problem is, since 1971, the Delimitation Commission is not happening in India. It was freezed till 2026. Till 1971, since 1971, this Delimitation Commission, that is dividing entire country into constituencies, was freezed. Why? Any idea? Sorry? One nation, one election is a recent thing. I'm talking about 1971. Since 1971, this delimitation exercise was freezed. So delimitation is very, very important, because based on that, the constituencies will be decided. Excellent. Good. See, the thing is actually how the delimitation exercise will be done. The states which have maximum amount of population will get more seats. See how the delimitation exercise, how the constituencies are divided based on population. So for example, if UP has more population, they'll get more seats. So MP seats are more for Uttar Pradesh than, for example, Andhra has more population. That's why its MP seats are 25. Whereas Telangana MP seats 17. So you can see the difference. Why there is a difference? Because it has more population. See, in 1970s, India was taking a rigorous action against population control. Population control, sterilization, these things are happening then, right? So if the politicians are not interested in enforcing the population control measures, because every state was interested that if you have more population, you'll get more seats. So it will be more powerful at the center. So this is what the ambition is. So that's why in 1970, this delimitation exercise was freezed since till 2026. Okay. So at present, we have constituencies based on 1971 census. Okay. So that's why now in 2026, there is a demand, and there is an apprehension that again, the Delimitation Commission will be constituted. And the South Indian states have an apprehension now, right? You can read the articles. So what they're saying, If 2026 delimitation happens, South India will lose its seats because it has controlled population rigorously. The fertility rate of southern states is less than 2. So fertility rate is measured with 2, you know, right? TFR. Okay. See, if you don't know, please tell me. So these are important. TFR, total fertility rate. See, if two individuals, a male and a female, so if they gave rise to two offsprings, then the fertility rate is 2. Okay. If they give birth to 3 offsprings, then the fertility rate is 3. Okay. So the fertility rate 2 is called replacement ratio. Replacement means two couple gave rise to two. So perfectly the population is getting replaced. Okay. So this is if two couple gave rise to one child, then what happens? If if two couple gave rise to one children, then what happens? The fertility rate is less than 2. What will be the consequence? More senior citizens, less youngsters. So this is what the problem China is facing right now. So you might have heard this. China is facing senior citizen burden, right? So what happens at one point of time? The people who are earning will be less. People who are dependents will be more. Right. So government has to pay more pensions than wages. So this is what happening in China. Okay. So in South India, most of the South Indian states, this is the scenario. So 1.7 is the number. Whereas you take the case of Bihar, it is almost touching 4. Total fertility rate is 4. Okay. So Uttar Pradesh also it is more than 3. Right. North Indian states have more than 2 fertility rate. South Indian states have less than 2. If based on this criteria, at this point of time, if delimitation exercise is done, then obviously North Indians will get more seats than the South Indians. So this is the controversial issue, right? So the first exercise is delimitation. Delimitation. Okay, right. So what is the next exercise? So as an administrator, what you do? The next step. First, we have divided entire country into constituencies. Now, next. Next is seats distribution. Seats distribution. See, based on the number of constituencies in your state, seats will be distributed, right? So for example, assembly seats 175, parliament seats 25. So this exercise has to be done, right? So what is the next thing? So now the delimitation is done and the seats were divided. Now what is the next step? Next step in elections. Directly you go for elections. Sorry? Excellent. Electoral rolls. See who are the voters in that particular constituency. That needs to be decided, right? Electoral rolls. This is called electoral rolls. See, if you went to an voting booth, if you went to vote, right? So once you enter into that polling booth, you will be guided towards an PO, polling officer. So first and foremost, what he do? He asks your ID and we have a list of this thing, right? So you'll have that list is called electoral roll. Each constituency should have that electoral roll. Who prepares that electoral roll? Electoral register officer. Electoral register officer. See, your polity class will never teach you this topic this extensively. So, right? So, but UPSC can ask prelims questions on this. So that's why please, this is an important topic considering the election year. Okay. So electoral register officer will prepare that electoral roll for each constituency, right? Every year, I think in January, so they will call for youngsters to come and register, right? So you have to register your votes, right? So this is how electoral rolls will be prepared, right? So what is the next step? What is the next step? See who will be eligible to register as an electoral roll. Who is eligible? Anybody 18 above is eligible for Is there any other citizen of India, right? Then every citizen of India who is 18 above 18 years is eligible to register as a voter. Anybody? If he is in jail, can he register? So all these conditions, there are many conditions to it. All these conditions are there in Representation of People's Act 1950. Now this is the first part. This is the first part of this particular act. See what this first part will do? Qualification of voters. Qualification of voters. See, first it constitutes a delimitation commission and divide the entire country into constituencies, right? Based on constituencies, number of constituencies you got, seats, assembly seats, MP seats will be distributed. You know this, right? One MP constituency will have how many MLA seats? One MP constituency will have how many MLA? 7. Okay. One MLA constituency will have 7. One MP constituency will have 7 MLAs. See, this is how first the delimitation commission divide the country into different MP constituencies, right? Based on that, the seats will be distributed, right? Then electoral rolls will be prepared, and then based on there will be list of qualifications. So whoever qualifies that particular scenario, they will be given voting right. So this is the initial exercise. All this exercise is done based on Representation of People's Act 1950. So this is the initial administrative aspects which you have to do before the election. Okay. So before the election. So this is called Representation of People's Act 1950. Okay. Now let us look into some key aspects into it. First one is Delimitation Commission. Okay. So who constitutes Delimitation Commission? Who constitutes? Matlab, who constitutes, who appoints the election Delimitation Commission? President of India, right? President of India in consultation with Election Commission of India will prepare, will do this delimitation exercise, right? Next, while doing delimitation, there is one separate clause and separate activity which the Delimitation Commission needs to take care of. So what is that activity? Can anyone make a guess? See, what is the job of Delimitation Commission? To divide the entire country into constituencies. While doing this, they will take care of one aspect. What is that aspect? Anybody? State? See, state doesn't matter. So every state should get number of seats based on their population. Reservation. SC/STs have reserved seats, right? So if there is a constituency in which there is more SC population, there is more ST population, that constituency needs to be reserved for that particular category. Only that particular category candidate has to contest from that particular. So while doing delimitation exercise, the Delimitation Commission needs to take care of reservations, right? Which constituency has more SC population, more ST population? This has to be measured. Okay, right. Next, okay, delimitation is done. Next, the second aspect, allocation of seats. So as I said, first they will divide entire country into constituency, right? Based on delimitation exercise, the MP seats will be decided first. Each MP seat will get respect to MLA seats. So if you got 4 MP seats, 4 into 7, 24 MLA seats. This is how seats will be distributed, right? So this seats distribution is very, very important because it plays a crucial role in the election of president. See, MLAs also have vote in the election of president, right? This is how our constitution is designed, right? The next one is electoral roll. Who does this job of electoral rolls? Registration of, who does this? Sorry? ERO, yes, electoral register officer will do this. Recently, this particular clause is in news. If you are reading newspaper, you can answer this question. Sorry. recently this particular aspect, electoral rolls, was in news? Can anyone answer? See, for example, I'll just elaborate it. See, you belongs to one particular district. You belongs to, for example, Hyderabad district, right? So, but you are settled, you have settled in Delhi. Then what the ERO has to do? Whether the ERO has to give you the voting right or not, whether he has to place your name in electoral roll or not. So what he has to do then? See, it is the job of the citizen to go and register. You want, whether you want your voting right in Delhi or Hyderabad, that's your choice. So you have to go and you have to register over there. So based on that, he decides, right? There are so many scenarios that comes into play. For example, the persons who are working in armed forces, CRPF, can they come and vote? They cannot vote, right? For example, election officers, right? So at the time of election, they will be posted as electoral officers, presiding officers, right? So they have to, who has to decide that? Their voting rights, right? All these aspects are decided by ERO. How the ERO decides that? First and foremost, the ERO categorizes the exempted categories. For example, government officers, armed forces, persons who are working as foreign service officers, ambassadors of India who are residing outside the country, they will be categorized as special category persons. In every district they pick up, in every district they will try to analyze who are the persons who are working in armed forces, who are the persons who are working in foreign embassies in this particular district. That list will be prepared separately. That list will be prepared separately, and they will be given an voting right called postal voting. Okay, they will be given postal voting, right? And why this particular thing is in news? Okay, their list was prepared. What about their dependents? What about their wife? What about their children who are above 18 years? So if, for example, an ambassador of UK, an Indian ambassador who is residing in UK, if he had a spouse, so what about her voting right? She also cannot travel, right? So that is why even their dependents are also, the dependent list is also prepared. Okay. So in the third step, in the preparation of electoral roll, the ERO, electoral registration officer, will do all these things. Okay. And why this thing was in news? Recently, there was a judgment given by Supreme Court. You can use this judgment in any woman-related thing. The armed forces, the exemption list is there, no? In that particular clause, it is given as a wife. It is given as wives. For example, the wife of so and so officers are also eligible to cast postal voting. So the word wife was used. This wife term was seen as a gender stereotyping term. So Supreme Court of India has asked to replace this wife with a term called spouse. Okay. So that's why this particular thing is in news. Look. So while preparing electoral rolls, the electoral register officer first he picks up all the exempted category from the district, right? And all their spouses will be listed down there. They will be given postal voting, right? This is the most important step in this 1950 Act, because so generally the polling officers, they face a hectic of things whenever they have to conduct an election, right? So if you are posted as an, for Telangana Assembly elections, I was posted as Jubilee Hills constituency electoral officer, right? So the voters comes up suddenly and they ask that my name is not there. They do all the ruckus over there, so that disturbs the peace and order of the electoral booth, right? So at that point of time, you need to be very smart, and you need to be in position to explain them why their name was not there. So generally, we don't need to do that, but the people will be at a high state of emotion that they don't check their name whether their vote is there or not. They don't check before the election. They suddenly comes with voter card and ask you, so is there what happened to my name? So you need to be in a position to explain. So all these things, that's why this particular thing is very, very important, right? So generally, political parties also do the rigging. How they do the rigging? So if they feel that if one particular constituency, if one particular area, these many voters are inclined towards opposition party, then they try to remove their voting power. Then they try to remove their voting rights. So all these things happen. So that's why electoral rolls preparation is very, very important, and the ERO should be impartial while preparing that. See, for example, there is an allegation in Andhra also. Now, for example, voluntary system is going on, right? The volunteer at the ground level, he knows which house is inclined towards which political party, right? He will know that. Now, if this volunteer sends an information to the ruling government passes it on to ERO, then ERO can eliminate their voting right? So just remove their name from the electoral rolls. Then what happens? They will not have any right to vote. So then that affects the free and fair characteristic of election. So that's why this is the most important step in this particular exercise. So this is what happens before the election. So this is the administrative jobs which bureaucrats has to do before elections. So all these aspects are mentioned in Representation of People's Act 1950. Okay, so this is part 1. Clear? Any doubts? Clear? Right. Next one is part 2. Part 2. So this happens from the beginning of elections, right? So this is presented under Representation of People's Act 1951. So what are the responsibilities? What are the tasks which you have to do once the elections have begun? Anybody? Sorry? Oh, sorry? Okay, you have to know about candidate, right? Anything else? Excellent. First and foremost is registration of political parties. See how many political parties are contesting from this particular state. That needs to be clear. So why we need to know the registration of political parties? Because see, you have to prepare EVMs. So how you prepare EVM? So beforehand, you know how many parties are contesting, right? So their name has to be there in the EVM, right? So before you preparing the EVM, so you have to know the how many political parties are contesting from that particular constituencies, for which you need to do step called registration of political parties. Political parties. See who do this job? Registration of political parties? Election Commission of India. See, once the political party is registered, then the political party needs to be allocated a symbol, right? Symbol, right? So this is also in news, right? So recently Sharad Pawar party and also Shiv Sena party, right? So the issue is going on with respect to allocation of symbols. So registration of political party is an important thing, right? So once the registration of political party is done, then what you do? You prepare administrative machinery to conduct elections. Machinery to conduct elections. Conduct elections. See, to conduct elections, you need so much of administrative machinery. What is the administrative machinery required to conduct an election? Okay, EVMs, as I have already told. Apart from that, what you need? Sorry? Accommodation too? See, there is no accommodation. You have to sleep entire night on the polling booth, right? So on the election day, if you are posted as an electoral officer, you will not have sleep. So before 48 hours, you will be under the jurisdiction of Election Commission of India, and you have to stay on the polling booth. There is no, so you have to sleep there only. So if anything happens, you're responsible, you lose your job. So there is no accommodation. You have to stay in the polling booth with some police officers out there. Okay. See, sorry? Yes. See, staff has to be deputated, right? So Election Commission of India doesn't have any staff. So it has only chief electoral officer and 2 election commissioners. So you don't have any staff, right? So it has to deputate staff from various departments, right? And they have to train them. See, to conduct an election, they have to train, right? So they will be trained. Now the training is going on. So it had started for Lok Sabha election. So for 1 month period of time, every weekend we'll have a training. Right. So you have to attend the training. You have to teach them what is the scenarios. So this entire Representation of People's Act has to be taught to them. Right. So once this happened, when the staff is ready, then you have to prepare electoral copies. What are electoral copies? See, if you are posted as an electoral officer, you'll know whole night you have to write. You have to write so many registers. You have to write so many registers, so many things. So all these things has to be prepared. So all these aspects comes under electoral machinery. And then you have to the election commissioner will constitute an officer called chief electoral officer or district electoral officer. This district electoral officer will have an inspection. So he will go to each constituency and he will try to pick up the polling booths. So which government school or which place has to be the polling booth. So the polling booths has to be decided, right? So generally the polling booth should have certain rules and regulations. It should not be in the vicinity of any alcohol shop or right. So like that there are some rules and regulations. So based on that, the polling booths will be decided. So once the polling booths are decided and election machinery is ready, then this step is done. Okay. So this is the hectic work which is there behind the elections, right? So generally we'll go and vote and come back. So, but this is the administrative things that are going on, right? Next, what is the third thing? The third thing is conducting elections. Conducting elections. See, there are so many rules and regulations when we talk about how to conduct an election. The polling has to be begun. When the polling will happen? See, you have to be aware of these small things because nowadays UPSC is testing your general awareness rather than the textbook academic knowledge, right? So at what time the polling starts? Morning 7 o'clock. It ends at 5, right? So at 4 o'clock there should be a mock drill. Know this? At 4 o'clock there should be a mock drill. What is mock drill? See, every political party will have an agent called party agent, right? So for example, if in one constituency there are some, say for example 10 parties contesting, each party has to send a polling agent. The polling agent will come to polling booth at morning 4 o'clock and you have to receive them and you have to check their candidature. That means the political party will issue them an ID card. You have to check them and you have to conduct a mock drill. So each agent will cast 10 votes. Okay. And they will check whether if they press one particular button, whether that particular vote is coming or not. You have to do the counting also there. You have to do the counting and you have to give the confidence to that particular guys that, okay, this electoral machinery is working free and fair. And we arrange the booth as it is. And there is no advertisements within 1 kilometer of the booth with respect to any political party. And we should give them the confidence. So all these things happens at morning 4 o'clock on the polling date. So this is called mock drill. Once mock drill is done and mock drill is declared as assured, then you have to start conducting elections from the morning 7 o'clock, right? So there is no lunch break. So continuously you have to do that till 5 o'clock, right? Next, once the elections are happened, so next, what will be the next responsibility? Next aspect? Fourth one. Sorry. What will be the fourth? Conducting elections. Then election disputes. Election disputes. See, there will be so many disputes in elections, right? So he used that particular word in the campaign. He done that, he done this. Right? There are so many disputes. So there is a rigging happened. There is an allegation that EVMs are not working, right? So all these aspects comes under election. Election disputes also handled by Representation of People's Act 1950. Right. Next, election offences. Election offences. What are election offences? Election offences. Distributing money, distributing alcohol, right? Corrupting, using religion to attract voters, right? So using degradatory words in election campaign, all this comes under election offense, right? So then by elections, see, at times when the by election happens, generally by election happens in two point of times. So when the by election happens, okay, when the person expires, sorry, okay, he resigns or expires. Then the second, see, okay, see, where he is dismissed or disqualified. So whether he is dismissed or disqualified, or whether he expires or he resigns. So generally, why they resign? So generally, an MP will contest from two seats, two constituencies, or an MLA will contest from two constituencies. So has to give up one of his constituency, right? So, and that constituency by election happens. So earlier, they have a right to contest from 3 or 4 constituencies, but now it is limited only to 2 constituencies. At max, only from 2 constituencies they can contest, right? So this is by elections. Then the polling, counting and all, right? So declaring the party which got majority. So these are the aspects which are dealt by Representation of People's Act 1951. Okay, Representation of People's Act 1951. So it starts with registration of political party, preparing election machinery, and then conducting elections, and then election disputes, offences, by-elections, and pool management. So all these aspects are dealt under an act called Representation of People's Act 1951. See, there can be a direct prelims question. So they'll give one particular responsibility, for example, preparing electoral rolls. Under which particular act this particular thing comes up. So they'll give, you can eliminate 2 options, and you'll stuck at 2 options, either it is 50 or 51, right? So this is the confusion happens. So that's why, remember, before the beginning of elections, all activities are handled by Act 50, right? So right from the beginning of poll, it comes under Article 51. Okay, sorry, Law 51, right? Now, Representation of 1951 Act also looks into one aspect called qualification of contestants. What is meant by qualification of contestants? See, MLA or MP, when he is contesting, he should have some qualifications, right? He should be a citizen of India. Apart from that, there are some qualifications, like if he belongs to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, then he has to produce that particular certificate, and he should prove that, okay, he belongs to that particular constituency, right? For example, if you want to contest for Rajya Sabha, so where should be your candidature, in your voting constituency or any constituency in India? So you have to be a voter in any constituency in India to be a Rajya Sabha. When it comes to Lok Sabha, anywhere in the country, no, in the state, in which state you're contesting, you have to be a registered voter in that particular state. MLA, you have to be a registered voter in that particular constituency. He contested from Wayanad. Yes. He registered there, but he has to given up any one of the seats, right? So registered in both the places. Now, for example, recently there was an issue, right? This Chiranjeevi's elder brother, Nagababu, he wants to contest from, so of course he's not contesting now, but he already voted here in Telangana State Assembly election, and again he registered in Narsapur in East Godavari district, because he want to contest as an MP over there. Of course, he not got the ticket, but earlier he registered. That has become a news, right? This is what happens, right? So this is the aspects with respect to election. Now there is one more aspect, called disqualification. So when and why the contestants are disqualified from contesting an election? Sorry? Okay. 2-year jail then? You have to know a concept called prevention, detention. conviction or convention, right? So what is meant by detention and what is meant by convention? See, for example, Jagan Mohan Reddy. So don't take personal. I'm just giving an example so that you can remember this concept well. Is Jagan Mohan Reddy is detained or convicted? Convicted or detained? Chandrababu Naidu recently was in jail. So is he convicted or detained? Kavita, yesterday she was arrested. Is she detained or convicted? Convicted or detained? So there is a mixed response. So detained, detention. See, there is a difference between detention and conviction. See, once you are you got there is an allegation made against you, there is a case registered against you, right? So this is called detention. So you will be placed in jail, right? So you can come on bail. So this is called detention. Once the court adjudicates that, okay, this is right, based on facts and based on evidences, this particular person was involved in so and so act. So once the court declares that this is a wrongful act, then it is called, right? So in criminal justice system, so we have three aspects: police, judiciary, prison. So enter all these three aspects cumulatively called criminal justice system. Criminal justice system: police, judiciary, and prison. So all activities that happen in this police related thing is called detention, right? Detention, right? So once it went to court, the court adjudicates the matter, okay, whether the police, they produce all the evidences and the court adjudicates and decides, okay, he is convicted. Once he is decided as a convicted, he will be sent to prison for imprisonment. Of course, in prison there are detained people are also will be there, but convicted persons will say. If you are convicted more than 2 years, then you cannot contest election for the next 6 years. So this is the clause in Representation of People's Act. So you have to be very careful about this word. Convicted detention. 2021 prelims, there is a question on this. Okay. Convicted detention. So once you are convicted more than 2 years in jail, right? Shashikala, Tamil Nadu, right? She was convicted more than 2 years. Lallu Prasad Yadav, Bihar, he was convicted more than 2 years. So if the conviction is more than 2 years, then you cannot contest next 6 years in the election. So this is the disqualification. This is very, very important because there is a point over here, right? So there is an act called, there is a section called Section 8 in Representation of People's Act. Section 8. This particular section says that if anybody is convicted more than 2 years, right, then he cannot contest in the elections, right, for the next 6 years. This is clearly mentioned in Section 8. But there is an exemption called Section 8(4). So this exemption is, see, for example, if I have done a wrongful act, I was convicted for 4 years of imprisonment, right? So all this hangama, all this process was done at district court. All this process was done at district court. Now what I do, I appeal for high court. Appeal for high court and I continue as an MLA. See, I was convicted for 4 years of imprisonment. So as for Representation of People's Act, so what I have to do, I have to resign my MP seat. But I'm not resigning here. What I'm doing, I'm just appealing for High Court or appealing for Supreme Court and I'm continuing as an MLA. So this is leading to an aspect called, what is that? Criminalization of politics. This is causing criminalization of politics. Criminals entering into politics, right? See, in High Court, it takes on for 10 years. In the 10 years period of time, my term will be completed, right? So again, I appeal for Supreme Court. In Supreme Court, it takes another 10 years. Another 10 year, my term will be expired, right? So this is what happening in India. That's why Supreme Court in Lily Thomas case, this clause was removed. This is one of the important step taken by Supreme Court of India to clean our electoral system. This particular clause is removed. Now, once you are convicted more than 2 years, then immediately your candidature will be disqualified. What happened to Rahul Gandhi recently? So in that Modi, so he has Modi Chore, he has given that particular statement, right? So for which he was convicted for 2 years initially. In Gujarat High Court, he is convicted for 2 years, right? That's why his seat in his MP, he was disqualified as an MP, right? Immediately he appealed for Supreme Court. So he was disqualified, then he appealed. Supreme Court said that the punishment should not be for 2 years, it should be less than 2 years. Then immediately his candidature was restored, right? So if you just connect it with some examples, then you will remember this, right? Like this is most important section, section 8 of Representation of People's Act. Clear? Next, let us look into some sections which are important in this Representation of People's Act. Section 126A. Section 126A. So this is also in news and this is also an important section. What is this section 126A? Anybody? If you are reading newspapers, you will know this. 126A. See, exit polls should not be published at the time of elections. So this is section 126A. What is exit poll? What is opinion poll? So there are two kinds of polls, right? Exit poll, opinion poll. So before the election, yes, before the election, opinion poll will be published. After the election, exit poll will be published. See, according to Representation of People's Act, in every constituency or every booth area, they should allow only one representative from a media channel. If you are a registered media house, NDTV, ETV, TV9, any register, so only one representative, one media person, one journalist from that registered media house will be allowed to stay in that particular pool booth area. Now what this person will do, he will try to interact with the voters who have voted, right, and try to gather the opinions, and he should publish this opinion once the polling is done. So this is called exit poll. You can just look at whenever the election is completed. After the election is completing, on the night itself, you will get this exit polls, right? So earlier there is no such restriction. So the medias, they used to publish the exit poll before the polling actually concluded. So it leads to influencing voters. So it amounts to violation of free and fair election norm. So that's why section 126A says that it should be, see, whenever you find this word A, B, C, so that is an amendment, right? So I hope you know this in polity class. So 126A was amended and exit polls were restricted. Okay. So this is an important development, right? Next, section 62.2. This is also an important aspect. 62.2. This is also in news. Section 62.2. What is this section 62.2? See, for example, you are detained. Now Kavita was being detained, right? So again, don't take it personal. So I don't belong to any political party. Just I am giving examples. Okay. So I am repeating that in one of your class, I am giving an example of Jagan Mohan Reddy. The one student got emotional. Sir, why you are always talking about Jagan? See, I am not affiliated to any political party. Just I am giving example, right? So okay, next Kavita. Yesterday she got detained, right? So now it is a detention. Now can Kavita contest as an MP in Telangana election, in the upcoming Telangana election? Okay, as per section 8, she can, because she is only detained. Okay, but there is one more clause to it, that is section 62. What is this section 62 says? She can contest as long as her name is available in the electoral roll. Electoral roll. See, if the electoral registered officer feels that okay, Kavita is being convicted, so Kavita is being detained, so let us remove her name. So if her name is removed, then she cannot contest. So this has become, this section has become uh, the lifeline for politicians in India, because you know, right, more than 40 or 60% of our politicians have criminal cases, right? So that's a big number basically. So what do the politicians do? Whenever a case is registered against them, they see to that their name is not removed from the electoral roll. If their name is removed from the electoral roll, even they are under detention, they can be not allowed to contest from the election. So that's why section 62 is very, very important. So whenever an MP, for example, KCR has more than 10 criminal cases against him. So, but he can contest because he has seen that his name is in the electoral roll. So this is the prime job, prime responsibility of an contester. Okay, right. Recently, section 20A was in news. I hope somebody answers this. Please read newspapers. So I'm finding it very hard to digest that you're not reading newspapers. This is bread and butter of UPSC preparation. Newspaper is must. So you can skip your class, but don't skip newspaper. Okay. So what is section 20A, which was in news? So which allowed NRIs to have postal ballot. NRIs were given postal ballot under this particular section 20A. NRIs who are residing in abroad, now they are allowed to vote from their current residence via postal ballot. Okay, this is section 20A. Okay. Now we have I'll just revise. See, we have see, we are just studying about administrative aspects of election. So first we have begun our class with what is the important, you are all aspiring for to be a bureaucrat. The bureaucrat has to look at the administrative actions of elections. So we started with Representation of Peoples Act 1950. It deals about the administrative actions before the beginning of polls. So what do we do before the beginning of a poll, electoral poll? So we'll do delimitation. We'll divide entire country into constituencies, and based on that we will decide MP seats, MLA seats, and what is the duration of this particular thing, delimitation exercise. So how periodically it is done? Once in 10 years. But it was freezed in 1971. Why? Because of this TFR issue, total fertility rate issue. Then you'll prepare electoral rolls. Electoral rolls are prepared by electoral registered officer based on qualification of voters. So while preparing electoral rolls, you have to take care of exempted category like armed forces, persons who are working as in embassy, right? So these things you have to take care. Why this particular section was in use? Because the word called wife was used in that particular act, which is gender stereotyping, and it was replaced as with word called spouse, right? Then once the poll has begun, so you will have responsibilities like registration of political parties, then preparing all the missionaries, EVM missions, and all the documents which needs to be filled, right? And training the electoral staff, deputating from various officers, right? An IAS officer, if you are a district collector, you have to write letters to every department before 6 months of election, right? You have to write. See, for example, to conduct an election in this, for example, Anudeep Durshetty is the district collector here, right? So he had a problem. The problem is basically he has sent letters to every department. So CAG department, revenue department, every department he has sent their letters. So every district collector will have a target. What is the target? See, I need at least 2,000 members to conduct elections. So 2,000 staff. So once the election commission, actually who is the returning officer? It is the district collector who acts as returning officer. At the time of election, the district magistrate will convert it into returning officer, right? So if he need 2,000 staff to conduct an election, so what he do? He procure that staff from various departments. How he has to do that? He has to write letters. He has to discuss with them. He has to communicate with them and get the staff, right? Only 800 people were present at the training station. So majority of people did not attended it. So then you have to again issue memo and talk to the department and persuade them and get that stuff. Because the problem with election commission is they don't have any staff. So they have to get it from outside. And who has to do it? It has to be done by the district collector. Right? So this is where you have to get that staff and you have to train them. So generally how the government employees will be, they will be reluctant to work. Right? So you have to make them to work. So doing a poll duty is not an easy. Under 48 hours, they have to be very vigilant and they have to be very active, right? So if done any mistake, then that affects the free and fair norm of the election. So this is a huge challenging task to do this administrative machinery. That's why if you conduct any election as a district magistrate, you will be rated high, right? It is a challenge. If anything happens, so you will be blamed. The district collector will be blamed. So that's why it has to be conducted in a very organized and organical manner. Next, you'll conduct elections, right? So once elections are conducted, then election disputes, election offenses, and by-elections, right? And counting, polling, declaration of results. So everything comes under Representation of People's Act 1951. Okay. So these are the administrative aspects of elections, right? Every year you'll have minimum one question in mains on this Representation of People's Act, right? So you can get that document. So I think institute will provide anyhow, they'll provide the material. So just go through that particular act now, Representation of People's Act. We'll get, so nowadays prelims exam also you're getting questions on this RPA. Okay, right. So any doubts? Any doubts? This clear, everyone? See, this particular topic was asked by one of your one student has texted me that they want class on this particular topic. So that's why I've picked up this particular topic. So if you have any issue on any topic, as I said earlier, this is not an academic class. I've come with a stipulated syllabus and teach here. So if you are facing difficulties in current affairs, I'll help you out in current affairs. If you have any difficulty in any topic, you can just text or you can just tell me that particular topic so that will have a class on that. The faculty may not provide you deep insights into that particular topic, but I can help you out on that regard. That is the main motto of this mentorship class. But you are not responding, you're just passive in the group. So I'm just coming up with my topics, right? So if you need any help on answer writing, on essay writing, right, or any topic you feel that you do not understand properly and you need more coverage or current affairs, anything, you just text me over there, right? So based on that, I'll prepare my classes. Okay. In any topic you want, any help? Any doubts? Any issues? Sorry? Electoral bonds. Okay. Right. So the time is done. In the next class, I will be taking on electoral bonds. So, right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And oh yeah, I got your question. Yeah. So you're talking about keyword, right? Yes. And okay, right. So that's the doubt, right? So yes, she has one more question. That question is related to K3. So I have mentioned K1, K2 in answer writing, right? So K1 is like which topic the question belongs to, and K2 is what is the theme of the question, demand of the. And there is one more thing called K3. K3 is like in every question ends with a tag: comment, elucidate, discuss, critically evaluate. So how to tune your answer based on that K3, right? So this also will take up in the next sessions. In the next section, I'll be discussing about electoral bonds on this K3. So apart from that, you need anything else, you can just text me, right? So thank you. Good day.